Everybody. It's late. It's almost 10 p.m. here, but I want to go over a little bit of Judges chapter 13 with you. We might do the whole chapter. It's not short. Anyway, in the last chapter, Jephthah died. He was the judge who sacrificed his daughter. And then we got some other judges. Ibzan and Elon and Abdon. I think that's how you say it. Anyway, we're going to start talking about Samson now. And he's probably a judge that, even if you're not well-read in the Bible, you might have heard of him. There's a lot of, plays, films, stories about him. But anyway, here's our judges so far. Othniel, Ehud, Shamgar, Deborah, Gideon, Tola, Jair, Jephthah, Ibzan, Elon, I'm reading backwards, Abdon, and then we get to Samson, and he's like the most well-known judge. So we're going to be talking a little bit about, and I've been studying it, about a Nazirite vow. Now, we just talked with Jephthah how it's not a good idea to go beyond letting your yes be yes and your no be no when you're dealing with God. Although there were people that took these Nazirite vows, and with Samson, God actually instructed the parents to do that. So we'll talk a little bit about it. Let me just give you a little rundown. So like a Nazirite vow, it would set the person apart for God, but it was like time bound usually. With Samson, it was supposed to be his whole life, but for most people it was time bound. Maybe it was a year, maybe it was 7 years or whatever. And they would not be able, there were things that they would show that they belonged to God, like they wouldn't cut their hair, they wouldn't drink anything from the vine. So they wouldn't drink wine, but they also wouldn't eat grapes. They couldn't have had raisins. They couldn't have even touched them. And if they did, they had to start the process all over again. Go to the priest, start the process all over again. So what else was it about Nazirites? There was more than that. But those are the two that come to my mind. But anyway, let's go ahead and we'll talk about it more. But yeah, we'll talk about it more. Okay. This is chapter 13. Remember, these judges, they come to deliver God's people. God's people, the Israelites, they'll turn away from God, they'll worship false gods. Then God will turn them over to the enemies and let the enemies have their way. And then the people would cry out to God. He would send a judge to deliver them. And then the people would be good. They'd turn back to God. And then that judge would die. And the people would fall into the same old pattern. Worship false gods, etc., etc., etc. Okay. Now the sons of Israel again did evil in the sight of the Lord, so that the Lord gave them into the hands of the Philistines 40 years. That's a long time to be harassed by the Philistines. There was a certain man of Zorah, of the family of the Danites, whose name was Manoah, and his wife was barren and had borne no children. Danites, I'm assuming the tribe of Dan? Okay, but we won't, let's just keep reading for now. Then the angel of the Lord appeared to the woman and said to her, Behold now, you are barren. Sorry, I'm just looking at something here. Behold now, you are barren and have borne no children, but you shall conceive and give birth to a son. It was a bad thing back in those days not to have a child. It was just culturally, it was a bad thing. Okay, now therefore be careful not to drink wine or strong drink, nor eat any unclean thing. Oh, that's another thing about people who took a Nazirite vow. They couldn't touch a corpse. They couldn't touch a human corpse. So if their loved one died, they couldn't, grab that loved one's hand and touch them one more time. I mean, I've touched my loved ones that died, but they couldn't do that. But not just that, they couldn't touch an animal corpse either. I'm assuming they could eat meat as long as the meat had already been processed totally by someone else. But if, if it was still in the animal, still a corpse, they couldn't touch it. So if their dog died, they couldn't bury that dog. Someone else had to do it. They couldn't go touch it. I've touched a couple of my dead animals, but they couldn't do that. So they couldn't touch any corpse. Person who took a Nazarite vow during the time of the vow couldn't have been a hunter, because a hunter has to process the meat, right? Well, maybe they could shoot an animal and have someone else process the meat, but they couldn't even touch the corpse. Okay, let me keep going. We are in, the mom is being told by this angel that she will conceive a child. She's been barren. Manoah is the dad. It doesn't say the mom's name. So the mom is approached by the angel and says, now therefore, you're going to be conceive and give birth to a son. Now therefore, be careful not to drink wine or strong drink, nor eat any unclean thing. For behold, you shall conceive and give birth to a son, and no razor shall come upon his head. For the boy shall be a Nazarite to God from the womb, and he shall begin to deliver Israel from the hands of the Philistines. So God is creating this child in the womb to be a judge of Israel and to deliver them from the Philistines. So from the moment, even before this child is conceived, the angel says you will conceive. So the child is at this point hasn't been conceived yet, but God already has a plan for that child that is going to be conceived, and he's going to be a Nazarite. So it's not like Samson is going to be born thinking, I'm going to take this Nazarite vow. God is instructing that vow. It's different than it's different than someone who makes an oath they shouldn't make before God, because God is initiating this Nazarite vow himself for the coming child. So, but because this child who's being specifically conceived and put into this world to deliver his people from the Philistines, that's a very specific calling. He's going to be a Nazarite. God is instructing the mom to not even drink any grape product while she's pregnant. She can't eat any unclean things. If you've been with me all along, you might remember in our previous studies we talked about animals that were clean to eat in the Old Testament and animals that were not clean to eat. So for example, you couldn't eat pork, but you could eat beef. So we're not under that requirement anymore. But anyway, she's not allowed to eat any unclean animal. She's not able to drink wine or grape juice or even eat grapes. She should no wine or strong drink. But these people I'm expanding on what it says here, but these people who took the Nazarite vow, they couldn't have anything with grapes in it. Nothing from the vine. Okay, verse 5. For behold, you'll conceive a son. You shall conceive and give birth to a son, and no razor shall come upon his head. For the boy shall be a Nazarite to God from the womb. So he's a Nazarite even in the womb. And he shall begin to deliver Israel from the hands of the Philistines. Then the woman came and told her husband, saying, a man of God came to me, and his appearance was like the appearance of an angel of God. Very awesome. And I did not ask him where he came from, nor did he tell me his name. It's interesting how she describes the angel here. She didn't even know he's necessarily an angel. She said he's like an angel. He's lit up. He looks like a man. So he has the appearance of a man. But keep in mind, a man and an angel are different. Although if this is a theophany, it could be a God in the form of an angel. Maybe I can look into that more. Okay, verse 7. But he said to me, behold, you shall conceive and give birth to a son. She's still telling her husband what the angel said. But he said to me, behold, you shall conceive and give birth to a son. And now you shall not drink wine or strong drink or eat any unclean thing, for the boy shall be a Nazarite from God from the womb to the day of his death. So this Nazarite vow for Samson is lifelong, from conception to death. And for most people, it was not like that. It would be a shorter time period. Then Manoah, the husband, entreated the Lord and said, O Lord, please let the man of God whom you have sent come to us again, that he may teach us what to do for the boy who is to be born. God listened to the voice of Manoah, and the angel of God came again to the woman as she was sitting in the field. But Manoah, her husband, was not with her. So he comes to he comes to the mom again. The angel of the Lord comes to the mom again. It's interesting because it was the husband who asked for guidance. But that's pretty interesting. Yeah. So the woman ran quickly and told her husband, Behold, the man who came the other day has appeared to me. Then Manoah arose and followed his wife. When he came to the man, he said to him, Are you the man who spoke to the woman? And he said, I am. This has to be, when it says the angel of the Lord, I think it has to be God in the form of an angel. Often when it says the angel of the Lord, it is, but I hadn't confirmed that for this particular chapter. But the reason I'm sure that it is the Lord, and I'll look into it and try to get more information for you for next time. But in verse 11, when the husband said, Are you the man who spoke to the woman? And the angel says, I am. I am is what God calls himself. Like when Moses asked the Lord, when I go set the Israelites free from Egypt, who shall I tell them sent me? And he says, tell them I am sent you. So God calls himself I am. So when he answers Manoah, he says I am. So that tells me this is the angel of the Lord. Or God in angelic form. It's called a theophany. Or some people, if it's specifically the member of the Trinity, Jesus, they'll call it a Christophany. But anyway. Verse 12. Manoah said, Now when your words come to pass, what shall be the boy's mode of life and his vocation? Manoah really wants guidance in raising this child. They've never had a child before. And he obviously recognizes the importance of this and that this child is going to deliver his people from the Philistines. So he wants specific instruction. I think that's very wise. Everyone who has kids should ask the Lord, what shall I do? How shall I raise this kid? Okay, so verse 13. So the angel of the Lord said to Manoah, Let the woman pay attention to all that I said. She should not eat anything that comes from the vine, nor drink wine or strong drink, nor eat any unclean thing. Let her observe all that I commanded. Then Manoah said to the angel of the Lord, Please let us detain you so that we may prepare a young goat for you. He wants that angel, who he thinks is a man, to stay. Again, the angel just reiterates, she can't have anything from the vine. She can't have anything unclean while pregnant and all that. And that's the way you're to raise the child. So the angel's instructions seem to be to really stick to this Nazirite vow. Verse 16, the angel of the Lord said to Manoah, Though you detain me, I will not eat your food. But if you prepare a burnt offering, then offer it to the Lord. For Manoah did not know that he was the angel of the Lord. He thinks it's a man. He doesn't know this is an angel. And this angel doesn't need to eat human food. He's saying offer a burnt offering to the Lord. So, anyway. Manoah said to the angel of the Lord, What is your name? So that when your words come to pass, we may honor you. But the angel of the Lord said to him, Why do you ask me, seeing it is wonderful? I don't get that. Another word for wonderful here in my footnote is incomprehensible. Let me read 18 again. But the angel of the Lord said to him, Why do you ask my name, seeing it is wonderful? I don't get that. I don't get it. So Manoah took the young goat with the grain offering and offered it on the rock to the Lord, and he performed wonders while Manoah and his wife looked on. I don't know what that means either. He performed wonders while Manoah and his wife looked on. What kind of wonders did he perform? I don't know. It's okay. You went out? Okay, let me let my dog out. I have one dog here beside me, and I have a kitty here sitting in the window looking outside the window, and my dog Kenny ran out to bark at whoever's out there. It's really late, and right before this I was out pulling weeds. I love to pull weeds. So I have lights like around the fence, and it gives me enough light to pull weeds by, and so that's why I'm filming this so late. I was out pulling weeds and whatnot, and it was super fun. But anyway, okay, so where are we? So the angel performed wonders while Manoah and his wife looked on. For it came about when the flame went up from the altar toward heaven that the angel of the Lord ascended in the flame of the altar. When Manoah and his wife saw this, they fell on their faces to the ground. They must have realized this was the angel of the Lord or the Lord when they were making that burnt offering, which sounds like they were doing it on a rock. And I don't, I'm a little confused about what they were doing with the tabernacle at this point. But anyway, this burnt offering went up to the Lord on a rock, and the angel went up in the flame, the angel of the Lord, and ascended. So now they realize he's not simply a man. Now the angel of the Lord did not appear to Manoah or his wife again. Then Manoah knew that he was the angel of the Lord. So Manoah said to his wife, "We will surely die, for we have seen God." So this is God in angelic form, a theophany. Remember, since the sin of Adam and Eve, we could not. Eventually, Adam and Eve got to the point, or people, in the early days back then, after Adam and Eve sinned, they got to the point where they eventually couldn't see God anymore. Adam and Eve and their children, their first few children or whatever, they could see God and walk and talk with him even after Adam and Eve sinned. Don't drink out of my glass, kitty. My kitty's up on the table. He loves to drink out of my cup. He just thinks I put it there for him. Anyway, the time came when they couldn't see God anymore. So for God to show up in a form like that, he has to appear, he has to manifest in a different way for people to be able to handle his greatness, because like they said, "We'll die, we saw God," but they saw God manifest in a different way. So when Jesus came, he was the human manifestation of God, if that makes sense. And because like if we were to see God like Adam and Eve did, it would kill us. We couldn't do it. We weren't pure and without sin like they were in the beginning. Of course, eventually they ate the fruit, but even then they could still see God. It was time passed, and then they couldn't see God. You went out, Aspen? No, Aspen wants out. Hold on. I think she wants out. You went out? Come on, baby. Come on. You go out too. Come on. My little boy dog, Kenny, he's kind of like the head of security in the pack. And then Aspen, she's very concerned about it. She's more dominant over him, but she lets him be in charge of security, and then she helps him on occasion if she needs it. So he's really barking out there. So she went it out too. And then look, kitty, hi. Anyway, my kitty is fascinated by the ceiling fan. He just loves it. So he's always staring at it. He'd love to jump up there. Okay, let's get back to where we were. So he's afraid it's going to kill him, okay? Verse 23, but his wife said to him, "If the Lord had desired to kill us, he would not have accepted a burnt offering and a grain offering from our hands, nor would he have shown us all of these things, nor would he have let us hear things like this at this time." She's kind of got some wisdom about her. Okay, verse 24, then the woman gave birth to a son. We still don't know this woman's name. Then the woman gave birth to a son and named him Samson. And the child grew up, and the Lord blessed him. And the Spirit of the Lord began to stir him in Mahanadan between Zorah and Eshtaol. I can find that. Okay. This isn't in the tribal land of Dan, but I don't think. Maybe it is. Maybe it is. Anyway, this is a different looking map. This is really a map having to do with the story of Samson. And here's the towns of Zorah and Eshtal. This is down lower because see the Dead Sea's here. So you'd have to go way up here to get to the, Sea of Galilee. But there's Zorah and Eshtal. So he grew up in that area. And God blessed him. I guess we'll stop there. That's the end of chapter 13. In chapter 14, Samson's, he grows up and he's got some issues. So anyway, I will talk to you next time.